Let's talk about functions. It's basically a named block of code, a set of instructions that you wrap together in one block. You can provide some inputs to it. The function will execute certain operations, and then it may or may not return something. So let's go ahead and start by defining a simple function that basically does this Celsius to Fahrenheit conversion that we've created before. The way we do that is you basically use the keyword def for define. So define convert Celsius, if I can spell it right, to Fahrenheit. Parentheses, that's where we're going to be providing our input. But for now, let me just go ahead and update this. And at the end, I will want to return the F. So this will receive a C, which is the Celsius degree. So in that case, I can go ahead and get rid of this right here. It will create a variable called F for the Fahrenheit degrees. It will perform the mathematical operations, and at the end, it will return it. So let's go ahead and actually execute this cell, and I'll create another cell in which I'll be printing out the results of this function. So I can call convert Celsius to Fahrenheit, and I'll provide multiple inputs. So we'll call it once with 22, we'll call it once with 32, and we'll call it once with 50. So if I go ahead and execute this cell, you see that I did not have to recode this instructions multiple times. All I needed to do is package it in a named block, and I called it convert Celsius to Fahrenheit, and I was able to perform this conversion multiple times. In Python, functions can also receive multiple arguments and return multiple results. So let me go ahead and show you that rectangle stats. This will take two inputs, the width and a height. And for the area, that will be the width multiplied by the height. And for the perimeter, this will be 2 multiplied by the width plus the height. Now I want my function to return both of these values, so I'm going to do return area and perimeter. Let me actually fix that typo right here. Perimeter. And we'll copy that name over here. Now I'll execute this cell, which obviously does nothing because we have not called the function itself. I'll go ahead and add a code cell here through which I'll be calling the function. So here's rectangle stats, and let's call it for a width of 3 and a height of 5. And if we execute the cell, we get 15 and 16. Obviously 15 is the area, 16 is the perimeter here. The way we call the function here is called a positional argument passing, because we basically passed in our arguments at the same position that we defined the function parameters to be. But in Python, we're actually also able to pass the arguments by name. So instead of just blindly passing in numbers and forgetting about which one was the height and which one was the width, we can actually do something that looks like this. Here's rectangle stats. I can do width equal 5 and height equal 7. And both of these will work just fine. Interestingly enough, if I do it by name, I do not really need to pass it in the same order that we've defined the function signature here. So I can come over here and I can pass in the height first, and then the width, and obviously we should get the same numbers because that's what we're calculating here. Now, because the function here is actually returning two values or a tuple of values, and we'll talk about what tuples are later on, if I want to extract just the area or just the perimeter out of that, we use something that we call unpacking. So we're going to unpack the results of this function. So I will do area and then perimeter equal, and then rectangle stats, and then I can pass any two numbers, And by doing that, I actually extracted the values that comes out of the rectangle stats into those two variables here. So the first value is going to be returned into the area. The second value is going to be returned into perimeter. Just to demonstrate that they are different, let me call this uppercase A and this uppercase P, just to show that they are different from the ones in the function itself. So let me go ahead and do a print. I'll do a formatted string and I will do area is, then here's the A, and the perimeter is P. If I go ahead and execute this function, we see that printed in the output over here. In functions, we can also provide some default values. So let me demonstrate that real quick. I'm going to create a new function and I will call it greet, and this will receive an input of name. And what this will do is that it will print out hello, whatever the name is. Obviously, I need to wrap this in double quotes, and let me use formatted strings, and here this will be whatever the value of name is. Now, if I try to use this function, and let's do greet John and call this function, we will get hello John. If I call the same function without providing any input, we get a failure, basically saying that this function was expecting at least one required positional argument called name, and you did not provide anything. So what I could do here is I'll go back to my function, and I'm actually gonna, in the argument list, I will provide a default value. If I don't give you a name, I want you to use the name world. So in this case, let me make sure that I execute the function again, and then obviously this one should work just fine because I did provide a name. But if I call it without passing any arguments, it will print out hello world instead. So this is how you can provide default values for your functions, so that whether you provide an input for it or not, they're still able to execute gracefully.